everyone, welcome to a slightly different video. So as you guys may already know, I studied illustration at university. So just quickly, for anyone who may not know, a final major project is the final major project that most art students will embark upon in their last year of university. It lasts about 5 months, you do it on whatever you want to do it on. This was 5 months of work. I don't know how I'm going to compact it into one video, but I'm going to try my very best to just talk about everything that I made. Also, hopefully maybe this will help out illustration or graphic design or just general graphic arts students. I hope that you guys enjoy this, and I'm just going to dive into my final major project, what I made, how I went about it, and it's probably going to be very long. Okay, here we go! So when my final major project began, I decided that I really wanted to look at narratives in some way, shape or form, so I decided to choose to look at studying fairy tales, and in particular Russian fairy tales, because they're a lot darker, they're a lot more interesting to me personally. I feel like they're fairy tales that not many people are that aware of, just generally. So one of the most famous Russian folklorists is a guy called Alexander Afanasyevitch. I don't know if that's correctly pronounced, but he wrote a lot of Russian folktales and fairy tales. In a final major project, you just research everything that is related under the sun and put it in your sketchbook. That's just kind of what you do. It's really important that you inform yourself on kind of every hidden nook and cranny of the subject that you're looking into, and just display to your tutors that you have looked it up and you are well informed on it, and it will really help you, obviously. So one of my original ideas at the beginning was to make a pop-up book or a 3D book of some kind. I really wanted to make an interactive story in a 3D way. I don't know how I thought I was going to do this, but this is what you do in a final major project. You come up with really crazy ideas and think, oh, maybe this is possible, when it is probably possible, but I just didn't go with it. So in order to kind of make this interactive story that the audience could take part in, I decided to pick one Russian fairy tale and look at all the different versions of that fairy tale. For example, the fairy tale Baba Yaga has lots and lots of different variations, there are lots of different endings, it's been written by lots of different folklorists, so I decided to choose that fairy tale in particular. It's about a witch and a girl called Vasilisa who comes to see her in the woods. I decided to look into that and somehow think about transforming all these different versions into an interactive story and almost take part in the story themselves, so they could maybe open a page or click a button that would take them to an alternate ending or an alternate plot point in the story. So one of the hardest things for me was choosing what deliverable I was going to make, whether it was going to be digital or a book or a poster or 3D or whatever. I just didn't know what to do. I think it's a really good idea to just play with all the materials that you have, everything under the sun that you can use, just sketch and draw and take elements from the story and try and illustrate it as well as you can. So I was drawing and drawing and sketching, and I felt like I wasn't really getting anywhere, and I started to feel as if I was getting stuck. Which is very normal. I'm messing with illustration, just drawing out a narrative. I don't know where this interactive element is going to go. I have no idea what I'm doing, basically. And it was starting to feel very samey to what a lot of other illustrators had done in the past and drawn out Baba Yaga, which is great, but I really wanted to try and do something different that hadn't been done before. So that was when I came up with the idea of just incorporating what I loved drawing into the project, and what I love is architecture and drawing architecture and buildings. That's just something that I really love to do and something that I love studying and researching. So I decided to just somehow merge that into the project that I was already doing. And narratives is obviously something that I really love, but it wasn't enough. I didn't have enough drive to kind of make it work because I just didn't really know what I was doing. So that's when I came up with the idea of resetting the story and modernising it, possibly during the Russian Revolution. So I was like, maybe that would work. So I decided to just go with that. So this led to me researching things like constructivist architecture and the Russian Revolution in general, just trying to inform myself as much as I possibly could, which I really enjoyed. Oh god, now I'm looking at my sketchbooks, it's just so much stuff, I can't even get over it, oh my god. My tutor told me to kind of think more about the narrative and the story and what the story was doing, where the story was going, so it's important to think about your narrative and what you're trying to say with it. For me it was more about the illustration, but it is important to think about the story as well, so I started thinking about the themes of the story and the morals of the story and who it's actually aimed at. And while I was doing all this research on architecture and constructivism and all of that good stuff, my tutors did start to say, you need to draw more because you're doing a lot of research, which is great, but you're now lacking any kind of illustrating. I started a new sketchbook to just kind of fill out with sketches and ideas and different perspectives. I wasn't thrilled with how it was going. I didn't know what style to illustrate it in. I just tried everything and I wasn't happy with what I was doing. So that was really tough. I didn't really know what direction it was going in still. I was doing all this research, but I didn't really feel like it was going anywhere. And then I had the mind-blowing idea of going from 2D to 3D, which I had never really done before, but I just felt like it was the right thing to do for this project. 2D really wasn't working for me. I felt like my illustrations and my sketches were just really typical what people had seen before, so I was pretty much instructed to storyboard the entire story and really think about what I was going to do in terms of 3D elements and how I was going to use 3D to my advantage, and they said try everything, so I had to try everything. And I found some really inspiring artists who definitely had an effect on my project in a positive way. I was feeling really excited about it again, and I felt like I was actually going somewhere. So I decided to try out making just some really simple 3D buildings with white polystyrene and gluing them together very quickly, just as a kind of trial. So I decided to just use light and shadows and photography to tell the story, because that honestly is a pretty simple way of doing it, and I thought it was pretty effective. So I was really pleased with this first kind of trial of using 3D and photography. I thought it was the best thing that I had done so far, and everyone else was really positive as well. So I decided this was definitely the way I was going to go, and forget the interactive thing, forget everything else, just go with 3D, because that was what was working. I also tried some collage and some projections, which wasn't very good, so I just moved on swiftly from that very quickly. So my original idea was to tell the story by just making 3D sets with the characters in it lit really nicely so that the audience could walk around and just kind of see for themselves. I don't know how I thought I was going to tell the story just by having 3D sets, but I did, so I just tried it. So I started planning out all of my 3D sets that I knew I was going to make and measuring them out and planning what buildings were going to go where, just trying to be technical and planning things out carefully. So I tried out a few buildings just to see what they would look like, and I was pretty happy with it, so I decided to just full on start creating this 3D set, which I can show you. Oh, it's right here. Oh, how cool is that? It's like moving into, oh my god. So there was the Vasilis's street neighbourhood, which is where it started. She's leaving her house and going into the city, which of course is this one. This one is definitely the most complex and the one I had the most fun with. And then the third one was Baba Yaga's mansion, which is where the climax happens, the climax of the story. So not a storyteller. So what I would do was make the building, measure the building, make the net, and then draw a panel of a building and then scan it and then repeat it on Photoshop and place it on the net so that the net is filled with the right stuff. So here's an example of a net that I would draw. So after making that, it wasn't quite as refined and finished as I wanted it to be. I didn't know how I was going to tell the story just from that 3D model, so I decided that it would be the best idea to just place the characters around, use shadow and lighting like I had previously, and try and tell the story that way just by photographing it. So I finalised the story and just kind of sketched out what kind of photographs I wanted from the sets and what kind of angles I wanted to take them from, what feel I wanted from the photos. So from that I created a lot of photos. This is a whole book of the photos that I took that I'll browse through for you. So I was really happy with the photos that I took. It took a lot of days to kind of get the photos that I wanted and get it right, so I kept editing down until I came to, I think, about 6 or 7 final photos, and I'll put them up here now so that you can see them. And those photos were part of my final deliverable. And at that point I also had been planning throughout this whole process to make a book or a zine. So I think I made 4 or 5 different zines and different books, just different ideas to kind of show off the photos. This was at the point where I had a few days left. I was really pushing it down to the last minute, so I made the book super quickly, but I don't really have a lot of a choice, so it was okay. So I don't want to keep you too much longer. This video is probably going to be super long already. It was 5 months. It was 5 months. It was a lot of time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this helpful or enjoyable. I very much appreciate it, and I will see you soon. Thank you for watching. Bye! Oh my god. Oh my god, don't break! Oh, I'm gonna put that down now. Oh no, if this is an alert, I've lost one of my sketchbooks. This is really bad. What's wrong with me?